Hello. Thank you all for having me. It's really good to be here. My name is Chisom. For a little bit about myself, I struggle to talk about myself, but I will try. I am Nigerian. Also identify strongly with, I guess, the United States, and also recently a Norwegian citizen. So I feel that my identity is kind of split between three unique independent cultures. And also, of course, having lived in different countries, I think now about 8 or 9, I feel a little bit like a global citizen. By profession, I'm an economist, a little bit of serial entrepreneur, so to say. I come up with projects based on passion, and somehow they become businesses. So it's one of the difficult questions I would have to answer is when somebody says, "What do you do for work?" And I think, okay, how do I start explaining this? I'm a mom. And that is a job I take quite seriously. Today is my daughter's birthday. She's 3, so it's super exciting. And I'm wearing gold just for her. And I am the founder of Diversify and Herspace and a couple other companies in between. Today, I would like to talk about the importance of taking space, creating space, standing in your power, and being the most authentic version of self. And I'm going to do this in about 4 unique phases. I have some notes here to help me guide through this story. And I'm going to start by taking space. So with taking space, I'm going to start with a story of when I was 11 years old. I remember walking into a classroom full of boys. I was the only girl. It was an accounting class. And I remember very clearly, they all kind of looked at me, laughed a little, and said, "What are you doing here? You know this is not a subject for girls." And in that moment, I decided that I was not only going to do well in this class, I was going to do better than each and every one of them. And I did. The second story within Taking Space was when I was 13 years old, so slight trigger warning here. When I was 13, I was almost raped. I was studying in boarding school in a small city town in Nigeria. And somebody I knew and was close to created an elaborate plan to harm me. I blacked out somewhere during the process, and when I came back to, it took a while to convince myself that what had happened actually did not happen. In any case, as things go in usually conservative towns, I was called into a room by elders and told not to say anything about what had happened, that if I said anything, I would be ostracized by the whole city, by the school, and that no one would be allowed to speak with me. I was 13. It felt wrong, so I said something. And as they predicted, no one spoke to me. I was ostracized for an entire year until I graduated. But it was important to me to say something. And at 13, I learned a very valuable lesson. I do not need the approval of anyone as long as I'm living my truth. And I'm saying and acting in the way that I believe that is just. It was difficult navigating that time in my life, and the trauma remained for a very long time. Through a lot of therapy, I can talk about it now and not break down. But I learned a valuable lesson that I was my own friend, and I was enough for myself. The next story on taking space, between the ages of 15 and 19, I was always a bit smart, so I started university quite early. I graduated high school at 13. And between the ages of 15 and 19, I was at university. I finished my first degree in economics within 2 years. It was a 4 years program. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'm too young to get out of university. I need to take on a different course. So I took on a course which is one of the hardest degrees in school at the Crofts Institute for International Studies. And I remember very clearly the director of the program saying to me, okay, you're starting, when do you hope to finish? And I thought, this is a 4-year program, but I'm going to do it in 2. And he said to me, I pretty much guarantee you that you will not. And I thought, F you, watch me. And I did graduate within 2 years. Sometimes I tell people that I am actually quite shy as a person and also as a kid. And when you see me working or speaking, sometimes people find it difficult to believe. But I think I navigate being shy in the world and taking up space in the world based on something my mom said to me when I was younger. She said, if someone says something or does something that you disagree with, and you say nothing, it means that you agree. And this is why I take space, because it's important that I speak up. All right, now I'm moving to the next phase called taking space, creating space, rather. In my 20s, I navigated the corporate world, working in finance, in investments, in the nonprofit sector, and also in academia. And in that capacity, I had so many great moments and also many bad ones. I navigated racism, sexism, misogyny, and also came face to face with my mental health. When I was 30, I moved to Norway because I am a love migrant to Norway. I have lived there now for 5 years. And I suffered, for the first time ever, a mental breakdown. I woke up one day and felt like dust. I didn't know who I was. And I couldn't quite articulate what I was going through. And after a lot of therapy and a lot of self-talk, I figured I'm getting better and I need to make my pain mean something to me. And this was how I founded Diversify. I created an organization. At the time, it was just a project to help other people like me who are new in Norway find a community, a place where they belonged, a place where they felt seen and heard. And although I was not struggling with employment, a lot of people in Norway struggle with employment on the basis of being foreign, on the basis of not speaking the language, on the basis of being international. And Diversify has since bridged that gap for hundreds of thousands of people. So, in that regard, I am really glad and really happy that I was able to channel that pain and that discomfort into something that was productive. So Diversify in many ways has become a passion therapy project for me. It still is. And our work centers on speaking truth to power. Our work centers on demystifying the stigma of mental health. Our work focuses on diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and justice. Our work focuses on professional development and research. All right. And then when I was 32, I became a mom for the first time. And while I was pregnant, I navigated trauma. I wasn't sure I was ready to become a mom. I wasn't sure I was capable to raise the type of child. Yeah, I didn't think I was capable to raise a child. I had so much to unpack. I was afraid of passing on generational curses, mental health challenges, and then all in that time, the world seemed like it was going up in flames. COVID happened, George Floyd was murdered, and then I felt like I had a carpet of trauma because I came undone. Due to COVID, I also felt incredibly isolated at a time where many should have family and people around them. My mom couldn't come see me, my sisters couldn't be with me, and I felt so alone, so insecure. And I thought, okay, I need a village. I think there's an African proverb. I think it's an African proverb, but don't quote me on this. It says, it takes a village to raise a child. And seeing as it was difficult to get my village to come to me in Oslo, given the travel freeze, I thought, all right, I'm going to create a village. So I created Her Space. Her Space is a evolving initiative. It is a co-creation community for women, non-binary people, and mothers, and it is open to people of all genders. And from Her Space, this summer, as Rasmus said, we recently launched HerTech. HerTech is an incubator for women and non-binary people to grow their companies, and after 6 months of being with us, we hope to invest in some of them. So for creating space, for me, really, that means doing what needs to be done, saying what needs to be said, no matter how difficult, no matter how uncomfortable, and not waiting for somebody else to do something that I know and I believe needs to be done. So, with regards to creating space, as I said, my daughter is 3 years old today, and she's the most important person to me. And there is nothing I do that does not incorporate a thought of her. And I guess it's also important to say that I create spaces so she can take it for granted that she can. I create spaces so she knows that she has power as a woman. She knows that she can smash down glass ceilings, she can build structures, and she can make whatever difference or change she wants to see in the world. So the next phase I'm going to talk about is standing in my power. So over time and years and work, I've come to learn that I am resourceful, I have some influence, and I'm quite self-aware. I'm always learning, I'm not perfect, and I appreciate the opportunity to learn. So for me, how I use my power and how I stand in it is to use the resources, the knowledge, and the influence that I have in creating the world that I want to live in, and in creating the world that I feel my daughter deserves. And for me, that world is one that is equitable. It is one that is intersectional. It is one that is inclusive. It is one that is just. And it is one that has representation, no matter who you are, who you love, what your race is, what your sexual identity is. It is the one that is supposed to see you as you are and celebrate you as you are and honor you as you are and create spaces for you as you are. So I use my voice, my power, and my resources to create these spaces. And I also surround myself with amazing people who challenge me, who motivate me, who inspire me. And those people involved include my team, my partner, my friends, the amazing women in my life. I know so many amazing women. 2 of them are sitting in front of me currently. You can't see them. And having great shoulders to lean on when I need advice, when I need peace. And the last phase I'm going to talk about is authentic version of self. So how do I define myself? I think I'm a wonderful mess. I'm a mother, I'm an employer, I'm a team member, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a wife. I'm an auntie and a friend. I have an anxiety disorder. I have a mental health challenge. I have a neurodiversity. I'm really, really good at my job. And I'm pretty much, I think I'm a badass, as we all are. I have great days, and I have not so great days. And I do my very best to show up imperfectly and authentically. Some days I show up 10%, and other days I show up at 100%. And some days I can't even show up at all. And in all of this, I try to be truthful with myself. I have had the great fortune of being recognized for the work my team and I do. And I am so humbled to be invited to share some of these experiences with you all here today. I'm deeply inspired by the work that Mimi's Coda does. and how it creates opportunities for women and non-binary people in tech, and also in providing a lot of employment for them. And it therefore gives me really great pleasure to announce that Amazon Web Services and HerSpace are partnering to replicate a similar program to create opportunities in technology and employment for all people, with particular focus on women and non-binary people. This project will be called DOOR. We call it DOOR because it signifies that sometimes we all need a door. One where we are celebrated and empowered and invited to dance. We all need space that are created for us, a place where we don't have to be tolerated, a place where we're celebrated as we are. And for anyone listening to this today, I guess if I were to leave you with something, and this is something that I also say to myself quite often, doesn't matter who you are and how you're seen and how you're experienced. It doesn't matter what your insecurities are. You matter. You're enough. You are absolutely meant to be here. And do not let anyone tell you what you cannot do. Stay curious, keep learning, and don't be afraid to ask for help. These are some of the things I say to myself every day. And on some days when I have really bad days, I try to remind myself that I am not alone and I have people around me. And if I need help, I can just reach out and ask for it. I want to end by saying thank you all for having me. It's always a privilege to share. It's always a privilege to be heard. And it's always humbling to think that in some sense, somebody somewhere finds this useful and finds that this or my story resonates with them. So thank you to Amazon Web Services for having me, and also Mimi Tkoda. Thank you all, and have a great weekend ahead.